Yen here, and as you can tell by the title, this will be the last reflective video on the RM Book Club Challenge for 2022. This video will have 3 parts to it in the same video. First, I will talk about the July book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Second, I will talk about Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami, and I will talk about why I didn't finish it, and then I will wrap up my thoughts regarding RM Book Challenge. So first up we have The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, which was the book for July reading. And me and The Alchemist go way back. I purchased this copy from a charity shop when I was a teenager, so I've had this for a long time. But it took me quite a few years before I even picked it up because, I don't know, my teenage self just thought, well, what do I know about alchemists, whatever. And then I remember, while still living at home, I tried to read this, and I just thought, I didn't get it. I just didn't get into it, so I did not finish it at the time. Then a couple of years ago, I think 2019, was when I actually did read it. So while I reflect on this reading experience now, I will reflect on how it felt in 2019 as well. So The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho tells the story of Santiago, who sees a dream which tells him that he should go look for a treasure that is found at the pyramids in Egypt. And basically the story is how he goes to the pyramids eventually and meets people along his trip and everything that they teach him, including the alchemist. And so that's just a quick overview. I thought it was very interesting that this time as well, my second time reading it, I didn't really like the beginning because I didn't like how regular people were described as kind of less than they are. I don't know if it was kind of on purpose. I didn't like that girls were only described as, as the objects of love rather than their own selves. And I guess this translation is a bit outdated because some of the words used in this Finnish translations were kind of, I wouldn't use that. I thought it was interesting that I noticed that I felt the same way when I started reading it in 2019, that I didn't really get into the beginning. But while on my second reread of this, I remembered that I did like it eventually, so I managed to get through the beginning. I think the story becomes more interesting and intriguing once Santiago goes to his journey and he meets different people, some who aren't nice and some who are kind and share their wisdom. It's really interesting to read, and especially by the time we get to The Alchemist. I don't want to spoil too much if you haven't read it, but yeah. And it never feels preachy. It always feels like genuine wisdom that the characters are sharing, and then how it can be applied to the reader's life. I think that's a difficult thing to manage, that it doesn't become like cliche or like fake or like toxic positivity. I really like the balance that's here, especially when there are some difficulties that Santiago faces. So overall, I thought the second time reading this was a great experience as well. My friend here also started reading this, and I liked that she was like, even though this is not a thick book, it shouldn't be like read like it speed read, that you should really think what's said in here, and I think that's a really good way to describe The Alchemist. So the August book for the RM Book Challenge Book Club was Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami. And Kafka on the Shore tells the story of a 15-year-old Kafka who runs away from home, from a difficult relationship with his father, to a small town far away. And then it also tells the story of Nakata, who as a child fell into a coma. After he woke up from the coma,
he didn't have his memory at all. He didn't know anything. So now he is an older 6-year-old man who is living as a disabled person, and he has the ability to talk to cats. So I started reading this book and I was very intrigued by it. I think Murakami has an incredible way of writing, and I think he knows that he's a good writer. I was hooked from the get-go, although I was confused by how every other chapter tells the story of Kafka and every other chapter tells the story of Nagata. So at first I was a bit confused by it, especially since Nagata refers to himself in third person, but eventually I really thought it was interesting to read. However, at about 140 pages, I just felt like this book, I didn't want to finish the book, because I understand that people should read books that challenge them and books that are maybe difficult to read, because in the beginning the book was maybe a bit easier to understand, but as it progressed it became more difficult, in my opinion. And I understand that people should challenge themselves as readers. However, I just felt like the story for me was not worth the kind of like, wait, what feeling that I constantly kept having. But I decided at that point that I didn't want to give up on it yet. So I read 2 more chapters, one about Kafka and one about Nagata. And after that, it was specifically when it was told about the circumstances where Nagata fell into coma, when the details of that were told, I was like, I cannot read this anymore. I have to give it up. This is not a reading experience that I want to have. While I think Murakami is an incredible writer, and that's hence why I read so much of the book, I read almost halfway through, it wasn't a story for me. And now to the final part of the video. I decided I will not be continuing with RM Book Challenge 2022 for multiple of reasons. I just kind of, as the months went on, I kind of started to dread having to read a book for it, because the books that I've read for Book Challenge, they have been very much out of my comfort zone, very much books that I would never pick up myself, which I think is a great thing. I think it's a great thing, but the whole year of that, it's been quite challenging and it's been quite dreadful. So I thought I want to have a fun reading experience, but reading for me has always been that it should be fun and it should be enjoyable and it should be something that I want to do. And at this point, I don't want to do the challenge anymore, even though it's been such a great experience. But there's also the downside of that I wasn't enjoying it very much. But I'm still glad that I did as far as I did and read books that made me uncomfortable and books that I wouldn't pick up otherwise. So next, I want to kind of talk about my thoughts about the books that I read. So I read 8 books overall, and I skipped May and didn't finish August. I think it's a good point to end on. As I've said on this channel before, I'm not really a fast reader, so I think the fact that I've read 8 books that were out of my comfort zone mostly, I think that's a great achievement. I think my top 3 of books would be Human Acts by Hong Kong. That book destroyed me, but it was so incredibly written. Kim Chi-young was really great. I even did an assignment about it. And I'd say maybe The Little Prince would be my 3rd. And I think from the perspective of a fan of BTS, I think having read Demian made me understand their album Wings better. So if there's someone who has been watching these RM Book Club vlogs, I'm really sorry if I'm letting you down. I have to choose what makes me happy. And as for Namjoon, because obviously Namjoon is watching this video, I'm sorry. Namjoon is someone who I really look up to. He's one of my big inspirations when it comes to writing. I write poems. So to be able to read books that he has read, and we don't know his opinion, we don't know if he agrees or what he thought of these books really, but still to read books that he has and kind of see how he's what he has read. I think that's really cool, and I am really sorry that I couldn't match to his incredible intelligence of finishing all of these books. I don't know how he did it. I also want to thank the people who organized all of our book challenge. I think it's an incredible job that you're doing and providing people these books and everything. Thank you. Overall, I did enjoy for the most part, but the dread of having to read a book that's mostly out of my comfort zone every month, yeah, it took over, and I have to listen to what my heart wants. I do have Norwegian Wood that I got in one vlog. If you watch, I might try reading that. I also have Midnight Library that my partner read, but I'm not sure if I'll read that, but maybe. Those were books that were also in the challenge. Alright, thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you for watching all of my previous reading vlogs for our book club. If you want to watch more videos from me about books and pop culture overall, subscribe to my channel. If you also were part of our book challenge, please leave a comment below, like the video, and so on. I hope I see you in the next one. Bye!